majority of the abdominal organs are for the process of digestion, okay, and excretion. So we're making waste, or we're using what we got, making waste, getting the waste out. That's what the purpose of most of the organs in the abdomen are. The biggest thing to remember with the abdominal cavity, and again, I'm not going to beat the dead horse, but the right upper quadrant has the liver, the gallbladder, and the portion of the colon. The left lower, excuse me, that says lower upper, which is not correct. That is left upper. Sorry, I didn't write that. It's the stomach, the spleen, and the portion of the colon. The right lower is the large intestine. It's what's referred to as the cecum and the ascending colon. So that's the colon going up and over. And then the left lower is your descending and sigmoid colons. The pancreas and all that fit on both sides. Pancreas, liver, and the urinary bladder. Urinary bladder sits in the right lower and left lower. One that you need to know is your appendix. Okay? Your appendix sits in the right lower quadrant, and you will see this again, so you might want to write it down. Sits in the right lower quadrant at an area known as McBurney's Point. MC, capital B, U-R-N-E-Y, apostrophe S, point. McBurney's Point. I'm not a very smart man, but I remember things. And the way that I remember that is, it's my favorite Irish pub. McBurney's Point. Yeah, see?
Jersey.
There you go. There you go. Makes you remember things, right? Okay. Sits in the right lower quadrant at an area known as McBurney's Point. And we'll talk about why that's important a little later on. But knowing where the appendix is in relation to the others will help you to understand pain and how pain relates to your patient. Okay? Other parts of the digestive anatomy are the mouth, the salivary glands. They play a lot more of a role in digestion than we actually think, because the salivary gland actually begins the production of, or the breakdown of the food that we are eating. They help create something called chyme, or chyme, however you want to pronounce it, C-H-I-M-E. And what it does is it begins to break down through the process of mastication. I love that word. Through the process of mastication or chewing, with the saliva, it breaks that food down before it hits the stomach, so it can be properly broken down. That's why they say you're supposed to take your time and chew your food, because if you don't, once it gets into the stomach, it takes that much longer to digest and that much longer to be broken down, and that is not a good thing. Okay. The oropharynx, that's the mouth, the tonsils, the adenoids, the throat itself, goes down into the esophagus. And the esophagus is nothing but the tube that's about 10 inches long that allows for food to pass into the stomach. And what happens here is what's called an exocrine process. So the pancreas releases juice that aids in digestion, breaks down the fats, the proteins, and the starches. Then there's the endocrine portion, okay, where after that stuff's broken down, the pancreas then releases insulin and glucagon. And what those do is they allow for facilitated transport of this food products or sugars throughout the body to be utilized. Okay? So there's two processes at work here. There's the exocrine process where the stuff's actually broken down by the pancreas, and then there's the endocrine process where the stuff is actually utilized and carried around by the juices from the pancreas. Okay? Specifically insulin and glucagon. And part of my diabetic lecture, which we'll get to later, but I always talk about the Kardashians, which I'm not a big fan. However, they have their purpose, I guess, whatever. The purpose that they serve is, if you think about it, you have that friend that has a little more pull. So you want to get into a club, or you want to get into somewhere, and you say, like, I'm a golfer. So I say, hey, I want to go play golf at, the Landings. And I have a friend who lives out on the Landings. I can't get onto the Landings myself because I don't live there, but my friend lives out there. So I ask him, I say, hey, I want to go play golf. He says, come on with me. So him and I go together, go play around the golf. In order for me to get through that semi-permeable membrane or get through that barrier, I have to have something to help. That's what insulin does. So it allows me access. Again, facilitated transport. And glucagon helps with that process. The way the glucagon works is, it says if there's not enough sugar from the food that we eat, it takes the sugars that are in the liver and the fats stored other places in the body, pulls them out to be utilized. And that's what glucagon does. So insulin just uses the sugar that we're eating. Glucagon pulls from our fat stores. Okay? And there's two processes that are there that we'll talk about a little later on, but that's how that process works. Okay? So the enzymes are then added to the food. As those enzymes are added to the food, it converts food into basic sugars, fats, amino acids, and they're processed. Okay? They go through the process of being processed. They're either turned into fat or they're turned into energy. Fat is energy to be stored for later. That's what I said, fat's not always a bad thing. It's energy to be stored for later, or it's turned into energy like sugars to be used right now. So part of it goes both ways, okay? Depending on how much we're taking in. All right, any question about any of that? Yes, no, maybe so? Okay, so what we're gonna do, I wanted to get through that right there. What we're gonna do right now is we're gonna go ahead and take lunch. Y'all can be back at 1:15. When we get back at 1:15, what we're going to do is we're going to go over midterm. When we go over midterm,